we look at this, everybody should see it now. Can you see the form? Okay. There are 3 parts to this form.
So ichibaretere chikope chiri mumbali chitatu.
One is the gross sales, or the total amount you sell.
So ichakubalirapo ni filya fyonse potoleshitisha.
The next section is the cost of those goods sold, or what it costs you to sell.
Ichakonkapo mutengo efo filya tufishitishe, mutengo efo twashitisha filya.
And the last one is the operating expenses of what it costs you to operate your business.
Necha utatu ni filya fyonse efo twachibomfya. Filya fyonse efo twachirashita mu filya fyonse twachibomfya.
So on the first part of your gross sales, this explains how we get to that number.
So ichakubalira muni filya twachishitisha ife filya tulanga ifo tulesa mukufika palira namba.
So if you sold 4 different products.
Come again, Pastor Mark.
If you look at the right side, if you sold 4 different products.
Okay. So ngatwalolesha kukulioku ngatulesha ifefya pusana ifine.
And we could just call them item 1, item 2, item 3, and item 4.
So if tuleshisha tulefitati ichakubalirapo ichakonkapo nechabune.
And if we sold 10 of item 1, you can see how much money that is.
So ngachakuti twalishisha ifefiti ifiti kwete.
So all of those together will add up to 3,000 kwacha. Does that make sense?
Yes, Pastor Mark.
Did that make sense? All of that together will add up to $3,000.
So if fyonse ngatwafisankanya fileleta ishwe ndalamesho wapendura $3,000.
Yeah, or kwacha, I'm sorry. And
okay, muni kwacha.
Can you see on the right side of the screen, item 1, item 2, item 3, and item 4? Okay, I'm just making sure. So even if you sell 10 things, you would list them here.
So ngachakuti twashitisha ifintu ifili 10 ikumi fyonse kufitantika papeni apa.
It does not matter how you add this up, but even if there are many items, all of it totals to 3,000 kwacha.
Could you please come again, Pastor Mark?
The 3,000 kwacha is a total of all of the things you sell.
Okay. So iliempia tusangire 3,000 kwacha ni impia ya fyonse fila tushitishe.
it is important to keep track of how much you sell every single month.
Chikankala ukulalemba ukuyishiba fyonse fo tuleshitisha chilamweshi.
Now we will keep track of the cost of goods sold.
Nomba twalamba okulemba inamba ya fintu fyonse fo tushitishe twalamba okulemba umutengo wa fintu fyonse tushitishe.
So if we have to drive to Lusaka and buy the items,
So nga chakuti tulefaika okuya ku Lusaka twaensha nokuyasenda fila tushitire.
and this is how much we paid for them, and then we would add the cost of going and getting it.
Pamutengo wakuya mukufisenda.
And all of this is the total of what it cost to buy the materials, go pick them up, and then sell them.
So if you say mutengo wakuya mukufisenda kufisenda nokufileta kuno.
Anything that is part of buying the product, getting it, delivering it, and selling it goes here.
So shonse ndalamesho tuleposa pokuya mkushita kuya.
If you had to go to Lusaka and pick it up,
kufileta kuno nokufika panshiteo tulefishisha tulele baba.
If you have to go to Lusaka and pick it up, you have the cost of the truck plus the cost of the driver.
So ngataka kuti tulea mkufisenda ku Lusaka file fintu kushitire na kwa mutengo wa kulipira motoka no kulipira ba driver.
Then you have hourly wages.
Namba tukwete imitengo sho tufilo kulipira mu hours.
That could be the cost of somebody standing there to sell it.
So iyo kuti wa mutengo wa muntu mo ule imini na mkushitisha kila fintu.
Or it could be the cost of somebody manufacturing or making the product.
Na nguti ya mutengo wa muntu mo ule panga file fintu.
But you add all of that up, and the materials total 700 kwacha.
So nomba tulesankanya shida shonse na fila fyonse fo tushitire muri filesa 700 kwacha.
And the labor totals 1,000 kwacha every month.
No kubomba kwa muntu ili ni leba ilesa 1,000 pamweshi.
It is really important to know what your cost is for making and selling a product.
Chikankala okwishiba indalama tuleposa popali chile chintu pakupanga pakuchikwata na pakuchishitisha chile chintu.
That gives us the gross profit.
So if you number ngatwapende if you number efile tupela number indamesho tulekwatamu uwe wesu profit.
Then we go to the expenses.
Eyo number twaya kundalamesho tuleposa po number.
If you are the one selling the product,
ngatakuti imwe nimwe muleshitisha filefipe.
then you would be paying yourself 1,000 kwacha, and then you would be paying yourself another 400 kwacha, if that's what
Eyo
you're.
namba mwakula ilipira 400 kwacha.
The 1,000 kwacha is actual labor cost to sell the product or make it.
1000 kwacha endalama tuleposa po yakushisha file fintu na ngukupanga leba ile endalama tuleposa po makayesu.
Down here in operating expenses, there's another 400 kwacha. That is to pay yourself for time to oversee the business.
Apa pali 400 kwacha yakuilipira we mwine omulandu wakuikala palya ukupose ukulolesha pali la business ukuilipira we mwine palma yakubomba.
This is one of the most confusing parts is, are you part of the cost of goods sold or are you part of operating expenses?
Ichi echileto ichifurunganya sana bushe ifwe tuli pamone fipe file tuleshta nangu tuli pamona na filia ama expense ya tule kwata.
You must pay yourself just like you would any employee.
Imwe ine tufuye twa ilipira dida tule bomba palia watu file fine tuinga lipira nga twa indisho wanchito umbi.
If you are working for 80 hours to make or buy or sell your product, then you would pay yourself under cost of goods sold.
Ngachako titulepose nshita iyo 8 hours tufuye twa ilipira ifwe twa iforesha kulingana nshita ila tuleposa nefefo tuleshitisha.
And then you would pay yourself some office salaries for another 400 for a total of 1,400 kwacha.
So nomba pano manga twapita mutwala ilipira nomba imbi ya kubombera po mu office ya 1,400.
You would pay for a stand to sell your products under cost of goods sold.
Come again, customer.
If you rent a stand to sell your product or a table or a booth, you would pay for that as cost of goods sold.
So nomba pada tuleshitisha ngachakuti tusonkera fe ngali table tusonkera fe ngani nika booth tusonkera fe na fe na filia tufile twailipira twabika pwas ifi empia esho tuleposa muri ifi fya kulipira ama expense.
If you had another location, then you would pay for rent down in office expense and rent.
So no mangana tukwata ikumbi oko tulesangwa na ena tufile twabika pwazi twabika po ama rentozi ayo tulipira kulia.
This will make more sense in a few minutes. If you pay somebody for accounting, you would put that in here.
Ifi fyalale nga tukwate nomba ama scans nana umwa kushitishana mumbi so ngana umwa kushitishana mumbi tutwaingisha kona bantu bambi.
Phone expenses, marketing expenses, accounting, insurance are all examples of operating expenses.
So uku kuli kwakutwala endalama kumafoni insurance na kumbi uku filangililo ifya kuti lila tulevomba natukwata mumbi mumbomwe mpya shifile okuya tulelemba.
Now, let's look at what an investor will look at, what he cares about.
Nambale tuloleshe ifyo aba balebika mu endalama ifo balolesha apo ifo bafuwa sana okumona.
So what an investor cares about is how your business can function without you.
So icho aba bakubika mu endalama bakupampinga mwecho balolesha po sana ifyo amakaiwo yengekala ukwabula imwe.
You can only work so many hours a month.
Imwe kuti mwabomba inshite itali sana pamweshi.
So if we're going to expand your business, we have to do it by having more employees.
So ngachakuti balina okukusha amakwewo Yesu bafwile bakusha amakwewo Yesu mukukwata ababonfya abengi.
The expenses under operating expenses stay pretty much the same month after month.
Ishi ndalama tulebikamwe ishi tulebonfya lilya tulebomba ili ngishira bafe chimo chine chiramwenshi chinja sana.
But the cost of goods sold go up and down based on how much we sell.
Lelo indalama shida tuleshitisha Yesu shida chinja twashitisha sana twashitisha panono kulingana efo tuleshitisha.
So as you can see here in month 4,
ngefa tuingamona hapa mweshi waune,
if we open 2 stands instead of 1 stand,
ngachakuti twaisula apa kushitisha pabili muri instead ya kushitisha wakuisula pamo,
then you could sell twice as many items.
so no manga twaisula pabili kuti twashitisha ifingi ukuchilo kushitisha pamo,
which means that your cost of goods sold goes up twice as much too.
ichilepiliwa kote nga twakwata pabili apa kushitisha tukalashitisha sana ukuchilo kushitisha kuisula pamo.
But your expenses stay really close to the same.
Lero tulo twakulipira tulya tuleba fe chimo chine feta tulechinja twena.
But if you cannot get your business on paper,
lero nga chakuti tete tulembe amakwewe Yesu pachipepala,
there is no way an investor can look at this and see that you could make 3 times as much money by selling twice as much.
nga tatulembere pepala tapali nshireli yonse ngalenga tebalaba abakubika mu rupiya beshi bati ifwe kuti twachite ife kuti twashitisha emikwibiri ukuchilo kushitisha panono.
So follow me on this spreadsheet. You sell, instead of 3,000 kwacha, you sell 6,000 kwacha.
So nomba tubakonke pali ife balelondolola apa kushitisha pamo leshitisha 3,000 kwacha nga baisula pabili apa kushitisha lesa mukuba 6,000 kwacha.
So your cost of your materials doubled.
So fila tuleshitisha fiarundu apo.
The labor doubled because I'm paying you at one, you're paying yourself at one stand and you're paying somebody else at another stand.
So nomba balaba kulipira balia balaba kufola tulewa folesha apa tuleshitisha balefola na palia balefola po tuleshitisha pabili.
So your gross profit went from 1,300 kwacha to 2,600 kwacha.
tsono mbali lyanga twacitisha profit twasangamo uku kumwe twasanga walundwa pokufuma pali 103 ya pali 2600.
But your operating expenses only went from 875 to 1,050 kwacha.
lero tulo twakulipira kanso na finshi tulya twafumape pali 875 to 1050 kwacha.
But your profit went from 425 kwacha to 1,550 kwacha.
lero profit na ena yalundwako.
So if you can get this on paper and show somebody how these numbers work, did I lose my interpreter?
Just repeat the line, Mark.
If you can see how we tripled our profit and only doubled our cost.
Sono mwamona efo ya chilundwa piti yesu sana ukuchira efo twachirashita pabiri.
That is because our expenses, our operating expenses, don't double when our cost of goods sold double.
Nicho ngatwa filefefe tuleshitisha ngafyalundwa po twamba kushitisha pabiri tulo tuma expense totwa kulipira tukanso na tunshi tulatwe na tatulerundwapo.
To an investor, if you can show this form,
kuli vale vika mwendalama ngakuti twavalanga ichichi pepa vale tulangisha apa,
they could see where investing money to double your sales is a good investment.
kuti vamona muri ukuvika mwendalama mmakwevo yesu nokulundwapo kwa ndalama kuli bwino.
But if all you can do is say, I sold 3,000 and I made 420. If you look under month 3 and you sold 3,000 and I have 425 left.
Nomba ngatwasa valangisha fatiyo na shitishe 3,000 na esa kwata mo 4.
That does not tell an investor enough to know that you're a good investment.
Ifyo tafirelanga vale vingishamo kuti tuvalanga tifwe tuli chitabwino makwevo yesu.
This is why you have to do a profit and loss form.
Ichi echo chavere chikankala tufile twapanga filia tule chitabwino profit tulelemba na malosi yesu tulekwata tulelemba.
If you can show me several months or a year of these numbers month after month after month,
ngakuti twavalanga imyeshi ingi yaifi tulelemba ma profit na malosi chilamweshi tulelemba,
and that your business is making profit every month,
nakuti ata makwewa yesu yalepanga profit yale apantanshi chilamweshi,
and you know exactly what it costs you to make and sell your product.
Pastor Mark, come again.
And you know how much it costs you to make and sell your product.
nechakuti nganatwishiwa bwinobwino ife chatusendere ukupanga profiti nokupanga malosi yali amuliri mu makwebo yesu.
So if you did not keep track of this, you couldn't show that you know how much it cost you to make your product.
Nga chakuti tatuleremba bwinobwino ifi tatwaishibe tatwakeshibe iche chinshi chalengere tufike apa chinshi chatusendere kuti tumone amaprofit namalosi aya.
Then you would do the same form projecting next year.
Ero nomba ine fomu iyi nga twalemba ekesa twafa nokulemba imbi fomu ukumona uyu mwaka oleisa efo tufire okuchita.
Then you would be able to show an investor that if they loaned you money to double your business,
Ero nomba nga twalemba efi alelenga nomba balaba balebikamu endalama tukesa balanga ati nangu benga tupere endalama ishakufuntula amakwebo yesu.
so they would loan you the money to go from buying 700 kwacha of materials to 1,400 kwacha.
Tukabalanga utati ifwe nga basa tukongwesha endalama shia nga batupere endalama twalaima okufuma paliri endalama ya 700 ife tuleshite fya 700 ukuya nomba tuamba okushite fya 14,000
1,400.
1,400.
1,400. Then
Yes,
they would loan you the money to hire somebody, so your labor would go from 1,000 to 2,000 kwacha a month.
so nomba nga twabalanga bakatwashima endalama shakuingisha banchito loti abakuti twaingisha kufuma pa 1,000 twalundako twamba okulangisha ababomfi 2,000.
Because if you look down here at the net profit, you can pay back that loan in just 2 or 3 months.
So nga twalolesha panshapa ifilanga ati iliye mkongole nga batukongwesha ila loni batupera muli 2-3 months kuti twabwesha nga twamba kulabombevi.
Now, this may not be realistic,
Ifi limbi tetifibe fya chine for twinga fimona.
because I am just using made up numbers.
So pantu ifi bale bonfya filangiro fe fya kutulanga kofye tukwate kofye chikope mumitwe yesu.
But I want you to understand how the math works.
Icho balefu sana kutulangisha kutusambilisha efu ensamushishi bomba.
Most importantly, I want you to understand why having this form is so important.
Chikankala sana balefu okutusambilisha ukukwata ichi chipepa efo chabere chikankala efo chinga twafa ifwe.
Because this is how you demonstrate you are a good risk.
Ifi nga twamba okulalemba efi samukulanga ti ifwe tuli bantu bene abengengira mu business ukwabula omwenso.
If you give them this form, it tells them you know how much you're selling every month.
Nga twali bapera echi chipepa balaba leingisha mwendalama chakubalanga ati fwe natwishibe fwe tuleshitisha chilamweshi.
It tells the investor that you know how much it costs you to sell your products.
So ichi chipepa chilebalanga ifwe kubalanga balaba leingisha mwati natwishibe fwe tuleshitisha amakwebo yesu nefilefu aika nefwe tuleposa.
And it tells the investor that you understand what your operating expenses are.
chile balanga balabalengishamwe endalama kuti natuishiba pakuti amakwewe yachitike tuleposa po indalama shamusango ifi.
Most importantly, it tells them that you know the difference between how much it costs you to sell your product and how much it costs you to operate your business.
Chikankala sana chile balanga balabalengisha kuti natuishiba nishinge shilefaika ukwamba amakwewe yesu nishinge shilefaika pafintu efo tulefaika ukushita.
And lastly, it shows the investor that you realize it's not your money.
Ichakulekeresha chilelanga balabalengishamwe endalama kuti tule balanga ti ifwe natuishiba ti ishi tempi ya shesu.
If you pay yourself under the labor of cost of goods sold and under operating expenses and salaries,
nga chakuti tule ilipira pali ayama expense nama nempia chakufolesha pamweshi nefi fyonse efi.
at the end of the month, the company made 425 kwacha.
Pakupa kwa mweshi kampani yapangile 425 kwacha.
The next month, it makes 425 kwacha.
Mamweshi wakonkapo ya kampani yapanga 425 kwacha.
But you have 850 saved up now in cash flow.
Nomba ifweni shina tukwata 850 mundalama.
So by the end of month 3, you have 1,275 kwacha.
So pakupa kwa mieshi tunishina tukwata yuendalama balumbule 1,275 kwacha.
So you have enough now to almost double your business by buying more products.
So nomba nishindalama nomba efi lyako na ifuntuka yokutati kuti tuwashite efi pe kushitila pona fimbi pali fila tukwete.
If you spend that 425 kwacha every month, your business has nothing to use to grow.
Nga chakuti tulechita fya tikalake nakaisa fye tuwakabomfya tuwalya nakambi kaisa tuwakabomfya tuwalya amakwewe yesu tayakakwate endalama ishakuifuntula tayakula apantansha amakwewe yesu.
So an investor would look at that. If you don't, an investor would look at it and say, this is just part of your life.
So nomba balabalebika mwendalama nga basayilolesha business amakwewe yesu bakamuna fati ii ni mbalife ya mweo wako uyu muntu.
That is why you have to separate your personal money from your business money.
Icho chabele chikankala ukupatula indalama shandi nesha makwevo.
And you have to pay yourself like an employee.
So nomba imwe tufile twailipila muli ala makwevo ngo muntu waingira fenchito.
If you keep doing that, you will have a very successful business.
Nga twatwalile okuchita efyo okulayilipila ngo muntu waingira fenchito amakwewe yesu yakayapanta.
And eventually you could give yourself a raise and pay yourself more money.
Mukuya kwanshita tukamba okulayilipila endalama eshingi.
And if you prove you have an understanding of all of these expenses and costs,
nomba nga mkuya twafishibwa bwino fyonse efi fyayingira mu mutwe.
An investor could help you grow your business very quickly.
Bala balebikamu ndalama ama investors kuti batwafwa ukukusha makwewe Yesu mukwangu fyanya.
But if you don't know what your costs are,
Come again, Pastor Mark?
if you do not understand what your costs are,
Nga chakuti tatwishibe indalama tuleposa mumuli aya makwevo,
then the only person who will loan you money is your mother.
nga tatwishibe fo tuleposa muli aya makwevo, umuntu fyewinga twashime ndalama bafyashibe subamayo.
You have to prove on paper that you know what you're doing.
Tufwire na maka yonse twashininkisha pepe patina twishibe fo tulechita.
It is your job to interpret the numbers for your investor.
Ninchito Yesu ukulondolola impendwa ukulingana ifo tulebomba.
So hopefully this helps you understand why you have to track your profit and loss every single month on paper.
So balesubira ifi fyalatofwa ukwishiba ichikankala chabamo ukulalemba nga tulechita bwino na tulekwata malosi business yesu chila mwenshi.
If you come to an investor with 1 year of the last 12 months of profit and loss,
nga chakuti twaisa kuli bala balebikamu endalama n'omwaka umo pamyaka eshili 12 ishakulekelesha isho twalutse,
and then you create another form for projecting the next 12 months,
twaleka nepepa na limbi tulembe ya pamyeshi 12 ishilesa kuntanshi efo tulemu na tifinto efo fingabela bwino,
showing that if you loan us money, I can make more money.
ukubeba bala balebikamu endalama nga mwanja shime endalama kuti napangilapo na shimbi ndalama.
You are now a good risk, and getting a loan is much, much easier.
So nomba wala ingira mu makwebo bwino nokupoka loni ilya chala anguka nga walemba.
And that is a good idea because your mother has no money to lend you.
Come again, Pastor Mark?
That is important because your mother can't afford to loan you money.
Icho chikankala pandu afyashile straight wakwanshe ukula twashime ndalama libidi.
God bless you. This is important. I hope this helped to clarify, and I am open for a couple of questions if we want to do that.
Mark, can you also just quickly explain the tax implications of paying yourself ahead out of your costs as opposed to just taking money afterwards?
The tax implications you're saying?
Yeah, for the company.
Yes. So when when you pay yourself, you are part of the cost of goods sold, which means that it is not taxable. It's not out of your profit. So you
so
are
ngati
expensive.
wayilipira
Go ahead.
can I interpret, Pastor Mark?
Yes, please.
Okay, so ngati wayilipira fuwewene mumakuti na ifwe ibika pamwe na ife fidya tatuleibika kuli bazedala ba tax na ifwe tuleba muli tudatonso twakulipira lipira tulelipira.
So if you just pay yourself afterwards, you would now have 1,700 kwacha in profit.
So ngati wayilipira pano maya milimo ni standard nifwe natukwata 1,700 kwacha
And you would
mundalama
pay,
esho twasanga
and you would pay taxes on all of that.
eyo nomba twadalipira nakuli bazedala taxi pali fyonse efyo.
But if you pay yourself like an employee, it is expenses, not profit.
Nomba ngati wayilipira ng'omubonfi twalaibika ile ndalama tuleyilipira kuli file fintefo tule shile ndalama tulelipira tuleposa shilya tashabe kuli tax.
So you need to pay yourself like an employee. You have to pay yourself like an employee. You do not want the company showing lots of profit that you have to pay tax on.
Tufile okuyilipira ng'omubonfi apo tatulakwata kampani yositayela kula kwamba kulipira matax.
Good question, Seth.
Atotela apo kuipushapo ba Pastor Seth.
Does anyone else have a question for Mark Hughes today? Feel free to raise your hand in the down the bottom with the raise hand button.
Ngakuli abakweta amepusho banshapa badikala kataka kuipushapo amepusho kuti batinika ko kaimya kuboko ngakuli abakweta amepusho.
Well, I see one hand raised. I'm just going to check who this is. It is Christine. Okay, Christine, go ahead and ask your question. Unmute yourself.
Ba Christine tibaipta ilipusho bakwete.
Good evening, everybody. Good afternoon. Well, my question is in line when business is not really doing well in relation to paying myself as an employee. I'll give an example of my company. I have 6 employees under me, but I pay them on a commission basis, not really on a monthly salary. So there are instances where when the company is not doing well, do I have to put myself on a salary? Because sometimes I even find myself just sacrificing pay my workers and myself don't get anything, just trying to recover and also put back the money into the business and see the way forward on how it will take place in the next month. Then my other question is that on paying myself, there are instances when a business is just starting for those who are not yet in business, or maybe they just commenced doing this business. Is it possible for one to be on a salary, or they have to continue investing back with whatever profit they make, or they should just have to be on a mini salary that can just sustain them with whatever they do in their day-to-day life? Thank you.
Both are really good questions. Thanks, Christine. First of all, when you welcome to being in business, you get paid last.
ichakubalirapo aya makwesheni awama wa Christine ichakubalirapo mbusiness nga mwaingira mumakwebo imwe ngabe na business kufola panuma pakulekelesha.
But on paper, in your spreadsheet, even if you don't have the money to pay yourself, you need to show it as a credit in your bookkeeping.
Lero pachipepa apa nangu tamkwetesha impia sha kuifolesha tufe twalemba pwazi kampani nayo kwatenkongole.
That way, the company can pay you when it makes more money without it being taxable profit.
Mwiyo inshila amakwewe yenu kampani yenu ngaesa kwatenda lama kutia sami folesha kwa bulo kutram nafya wazedare.
And your question shows why it's so important to be able to put this all on paper.
Ili pusho liyenu lilanga sana sana chikankala kubika fyonse fi ukulemba pachipepala.
Because if the problem is that you have big months and bad months and that goes up and down,
Namba chakutati makwewe no mie shimbi mure chitabuino shimbi mure bwera panshi shimbi mure chitabuino mure bwera panshi.
an investor will be able to see that and see that you're a good risk for a cash flow loan.
Balabala bika mwindala mabala muna timwe mwasenda mwalingira mumakwewo kwa bulo mwenso.
But without a spreadsheet that shows this accurately, your investor doesn't know if maybe you're just not spending the money wisely.
No mbanga tatule wino ngefi balabale bika mwendala mataishi banga chauti tunatu kwa tafe bwangashi nangu tatule bomfya fya wino endalama.
And it is important to understand where your business is going with employees. How many people, if you have more people, would you make more money? You have to be able to show that on paper.
Chikankala sana sana kuishiba kwa makwewe yesu ya leya ero kabiri chikankala chapo ukukwata aba bomfya bengi uko kampani uko kwa makwewe yesu ya lana aba bomfya bengi fyonse potfe twafilanga pepepa.
And I got lost in my thoughts, Seth. What was the second question?
I forget the second question.
Christine, can you clarify your second question again?
Can I clarify?
Yeah, please.
Yeah, I think part of our question is there are still businesses where you depend on commission. For instance, maybe if you're dealing with mobile money, then you say, okay, at the end of the month, if you are going to make a commission of maybe 500 kwacha. So if this month you make 500 kwacha, then out of that 500 kwacha, that's where your salary will come from. If the following month you make more than 500 kwacha, maybe 700, it means that employee will get a higher amount on that month. So that's what our question is coming from, that suppose your business depends on commission, you give salaries to your employees depending on the commission that they are making. So how do you pay yourself in that situation? Because you are not working to make that commission. It's just your employee who are making that commission. So
Yes.
then how do you marry the two? That's part of our question.
And in that case, since your commissions, no matter how you pay them, would be cost of goods sold under labor. But you would be operating expenses because you are not part of the cost to make more money. So, and you can pay yourself completely under office salaries, operating expenses by making that 1,200 or 1,400 kwacha or whatever it is, and so that you are not part of what is making the product or selling it. Does that answer it, Kelvin?
So
Yeah, I think you've answered. I don't know to the owner of the question if that is more clear. She can confirm.
She is muted, and we'll have to unmute.
Oh, okay. So my question, I'm putting an example on myself. I have 6 employees. They're working on a commission basis, but my commission, we have agreed on a certain percentage. Let's say 20% of my profit, whether I make more money in that month or maybe it's even fluctuates. But my question is that there are instances where my company is not doing very well. Then I pay my workers on their commission. Then sometimes I find myself I've not gotten anything because I want to reinvest back in my business to make more profit for the next month. So I think my question have already been cleared because he said, Pastor Mark said, I have to be writing so that the company can owe me and come and pay me the moment it has money. So it's very clear now.
Okay, yes. And commissions make a lot of sense, but no matter what, everybody gets paid before you do. That's the beauty of owning a business.
so ama-commission yasuma lero onse fyole bombamo afuira afola imwe bene bakampani tamulafola ebusuma bwaicho.
Thank you so much. It's very clear.
Thank you, Christine.
So,
Great questions.
Pastor Mike. Pastor
Mark,
Mike.
I have a question. What would you say to a person who feels like they have such a simple business or so little money that they are making that they are tempted not to do a profit and loss statement? What would you say to such a person who is wondering, do I really make enough? Is my business really big enough to do a profit and loss? What would you say to such a question?
I would say that, quite frankly, you have a hobby and not a business.
Okay.
And it's okay to have a hobby and a little side thing that you're just making a few dollars on, but it's not a business until it's a profit on a spreadsheet in a profit and loss.
I see Kelvin. Pastor Kayata has a question.
Yes, it's a follow-up from the previous one. So on the commission part, like Christine said, that she has 6 employees. Then she has given them a target. Okay, 20% out of that will be your salary. So in that situation, it means that even the owner, she can also specify how much percent she will be getting from whatever commission the 6 employees makes. Am I right?
There's still I don't know if it's 20% of the gross sales or 20% of the gross profit. That would be the question, looking at our spreadsheet. So
Go
if
ahead, Christine.
if it is a percent, you're still doing a percentage, but you have to keep track of what your costs are. So if in this case $3,000, then you would have $600 in commissions under the labor column that show that as a cost of goods sold in your that you would be paying out to change your gross profit. Does that make sense?
Okay.
But since it is related to, they are the ones doing the labor to sell it, they get recorded under cost of goods sold.
This question is I don't know how to because I'm seeing it's in two parts. There's what you have products, then you say, okay, I've invested this much. After selling, I'm going to get this much. So if I make this much, if I subtract ABCD, then the remaining will be ABCD. Now, there are certain businesses like for mobile money transactions, where someone has got maybe 4 or 5 booths, and in each booth, you don't invest. Once you just buy SIM cards, you have a capital, so you can give your employee, here's 6,000, here's a SIM card, start making transaction. So it's up to now to the network provider like the MTN to determine the commission that you get. So in that situation, you don't know how much you'll be getting per month. That depends now on how many transaction you make. So in agreement with your employee, you just say, okay, if you make this percent, I'll be giving you maybe 30% from whatever commission that you get at the end of the month. So now in that situation where it's difficult to predict how many transactions you're going to make, how do you, carry the same pattern that we've been learning about?
Good question. And that's why I said that you need to have tracking this for what you really do every month for a while, because then history is a good predictor of the future. And if you track this for a year, you will have a pretty good idea of what to expect.
So it means the first year you struggle a bit.
Plus, if you keep track of this, you will be able to see what you need to fix to make your business more profitable.
Well, I think we'll wind it up there. Thank you for your questions, everyone. They were good questions today. And thank you, Mark, for your time as well. Again, this session will be on the YouTube channel. And if you want to go back over it at any time, this will be up on the YouTube channel for you to be able to look at. Again, thank you so much for being on. And we will speak with everybody again next week. God bless you.
On time.